there a more hated woman in Australia than Kathleen Folbig? Over 10 years, one by one, she killed her 4 babies. Her crime...
I'm not sure about Kathleen Folbig, as the verdict is really still undecided in part of the scientific community over the exact cause of death of her babies. But here in Hong Kong, almost 7,300 kilometers away, on Monkey Hill, my verdict is out on a mother primate, Nora. I first met Nora on the last day of April back in 2016. She didn't have a name then, of course. She caught my attention because she was carrying a baby. Yes, that's Vince. He was known as Lil Prince then, before I did begin to name each baby born systematically. And by all accounts, she seemed to be behaving just like many mother Rhesus I saw then. Very loving and protective of her baby. And Vince could access the milk bar freely. Nan, the troop elder, Nora's second in command. Nope, Nora wouldn't even let her hold Vince for her then. But she did it with a bit of grooming to soften the impact of her refusal. No one got to hold Vince, not even Nan, in the end. I didn't bump into them again until a month later, just before June. And you can see Mum Nora keep a tight rein on him. And the two were almost inseparable. She carried him everywhere she went. The overwhelming impression was that Vince was a happy boy, well cared for and loved by his mother and everyone in the troop. And it surely had to be so. And he had to be well nourished too. For he had become one big chubby boy. I really didn't think much about Nora then, as she seemed to be just like any normal rhesus mothers to me. And Vince must be a mum's boy, for he still hangs around in his natal troop, even though he's well past 5 years of age. Then came May 2017, and something seemed to have gone awry. Like many females then, Nora had given birth to a new baby. A girl, I called Sessa. So far so good, but Nora seemed to be less gentle with her baby this time. She just didn't seem to exercise the same care that she did with Vince. That's awful. I had never seen a mother dragging her newborn like this, without a care. And if you haven't noticed, it seemed Sessa had not nursed even once at all. Which all seemed very strange. Perhaps I had caught Nora on a bad day. But observation on another day seemed to suggest otherwise. That loving Nora we saw in 2016 seemed to have disappeared. She seemed very reluctant to let Sessa come anywhere near her milk bar at all. But a newborn at Sessa's age there should be latching on nearly 24/7 in most cases. No latching on there. She just wouldn't let Sessa nurse at all. But of course she must have let Sessa nursed from time to time, or she wouldn't have survived past a few days, let alone a few weeks. but it wasn't until the end of May 2017 that I first observed that Sessa could nurse at will. She had just turned 4 weeks old. It seemed Nora was the same Nora we saw back with Vince the year previously. Caring, loving and protective once again. And it really did seem things were finally looking up for Sessa. And there she was, a thriving 2-month-old baby. She even got to play too. Another troop was coming. See how careful that mother was carrying her yearling. In contrast, Nora seemed a bit reckless the way she carried Sessa around. There's definitely a stark contrast. And that's the last time I saw Sessa alive. I bumped into them just about 10 days later. By then, Nora was alone, without Sessa. And she was showing much interest in Norma's girl, B, then. And that's when I realized that Sessa had gone. Nora really had my sympathy then. Perhaps she had problem with nursing, like mastitis postpartum. But she was back to her normal self once her problem resolved, whatever it was. The following year, Nora had another baby again. Was there something wrong with that baby? Or was the problem Nora's? She seemed very reluctant to let her newborn nurse there. She's blocking the baby again. And again. A newborn can't nurse on ground level like this. The milk bar is simply out of range for it. And Nora was not helping blocking the proper access either. At long last, for this baby we call Nick. Did Nora come to her senses? Or was Nick's perseverance pay off in the end? We would never know. It wasn't about 2 weeks later that I bumped into Nick again, with Nora.
爬啦，你都旁边的。哦，开了，开了。不是，这边嘛。
Was Nora uncomfortable there?
好肥啊！你看。嚇死我啦！
Her behavior really baffled me there. And she really wasn't the most careful mother out there, carrying her 2-week-old baby sideways climbing up a tree like this. A baby could fall on such a bumpy ride. But Nora didn't seem to care. Nora wasn't a first-time mum, and it just struck me odd there. Perhaps Cess's disappearance had something to do with the nonchalant way she carried her babies around. A fall high enough can be fatal. But Nick has made it. He is now a thriving 4-year-old in Nora's troupe. The following year, Nora gave birth again. Most matriarchs give birth every year, they hardly skip. And it really was a relief to see her new baby, called Celessa, had it so much easier. She did have to remind Nora though. Perhaps what had been plaguing her immediately postpartum in the previous 2 years had sorted itself out this time round. But still, Celessa couldn't nurse 24/7 like most other babies normally do at her stage. Unlike Cessa and Nick before her though, she didn't seem to be as fazed by it. The question was, would Nora flip back again? Perhaps Nora would never be as loving as she was with Vince ever again. But at least she seemed to be doing an adequate job there. And Celes's mild temperament seemed to have helped there too. Celessa seemed to have learnt early how not to aggravate her mum. And she did indeed make it. And she is now a strapping girl in Nora's troupe. But also a lil bully herself too. So 2 babies had made it since Cessa. Perhaps we really should put what happened before behind. Nature has always have a fair amount of quirks. And whatever problem she did have, she seemed to have finally a grip on it. It's like clockwork, the following year Nora gave birth again.
BB 瞓覺啊，BB 係啊，唔好揾支竹啊嚇親佢啊，仲喺度啊 BB 啊，哎呀，仲係擲住咗唔可以走啊隻 BB，
仲喺度啊？
擲住咗唔可以走啊，
仲撳住佢啊？睇個自己係傻咗。
佢驚雷公伯伯佢啊。
係啊，你唔好。呢個好玩嘅，係咪？咁得意嘅。喂，你看，小 BB 啊你，这上头也能放上去，那个还放不出，这看你，啊？想干嘛
Oh dear, something's gone awry again.
抱住他，你看他抱孩子抱了妈妈，那个婆了给他，忙死婆婆。
我塊面係咪呢度靜零舍靜咁
我都以後邊做一個，你爬個頭上。
It seemed Nora had reverted back again, or whatever was affecting her before was coming back with a vengeance. It really didn't seem Nora have any intention to nurse her newborn at all. Not only did she not want to nurse, she seemed undecided what she should be doing with it. Her own baby. She wanted to rid herself of it, but a glimmer of her maternal instinct seemed to tell her otherwise.
个大洋往去了呀。
That baby's life was hanging by a thread if Nora did not come to her senses quick. She did finally, but there was no way for me to know whether the baby was nursing or just exhausted there, sleeping. I believe the latter to be true though, given the position of the baby. It wasn't until 3 days later that I met the baby again. She was still hanging on. But it didn't bode well, as one of the feeders saw the baby fallen down from the cliff once earlier. The baby was probably growing weak and was losing her grip from time to time. She came down with her baby eventually when the feeder arrived. And I sighed a relief to see that the baby was allowed to nurse finally. Perhaps Nora had come to her senses. I sincerely did hope so. And the baby was still seen 2 days later. That's the last time I saw that baby alive. She was never given a name. And I don't want to do so posthumously. 2021 saw many new feeders coming to Monkey Hill. And again, Nora gave birth. It's a boy, Nigel. So far so good, but it was still very early days. Actually hours as the baby was born, probably just a few hours back. And you could just see the fresh umbilical cord there. A baby's instinct is to nurse shortly after birth. But Nora didn't seem to be ready for it. But it did seem the abundance of food had made a difference to Nora's behavior. She did seem to be less aware of her baby's nursing, and tolerated his presence much better. Nope, she had just pushed her baby to one side. Baby couldn't nurse once again. But this baby, Nigel didn't utter a single cry of protest. He just readjusted his position, and found his way back to latch on again. Nope, it was just too awkward for him. Nora never really seemed to care about her baby at all so far. She just tolerated its presence. But one had to give credit to Nigel. He never seemed to phase. He just persevered, and bless him, he got a strong grip too. I hadn't bumped into them until nearly 2 weeks later. Nigel was just over 2 weeks old then. What a remarkable boy Nigel was then. Not a single cry at all. The abundance of food might have helped Nigel's odds. But I believe it's his quiet resolve and perseverance that had pulled him through. Indeed, he has made it. A lively boy as we speak, and will stand up to his bully, Celessa, his sister. And once past that difficult first 3 to 4 weeks in their early life, it seems most of Nora's babies would make it, so far. I have my verdict. I think Nora's problem first began after Cess's birth. At first I thought she had some kind of mastitis each time, but that couldn't explain her almost non-caring, and bordering on abusive way of treating Cessa and all subsequent babies. Besides, her nipples had never once been observed to be particularly engorged or inflamed each time. Her problem seemed so far to be coming from her brain, how she processed and saw the new being, its biological baby before her eyes. I really do think Nora suffers from some kind of psychological problem postpartum beginning in 2017. Is that similar to postpartum blue or a more serious related condition, depression in humans? I do not know, and our animal models in this condition in primates are not very conclusive, and Nora, being the matriarch, is never low ranking to begin with. That could predispose her to depression-like traits. And anyway, her condition seemed to have improved each time after about 4 weeks, and she would subsequently behave just like other loving rhesus mothers. So I don't want my viewers to hate Nora. I think she has a psychological problem after each birth since 2017. Unfortunately, there isn't much we can do to help her. What does that entail for her babies? It seems those who survive share some common traits. My dear viewers, what do you think those traits are? And what's yours on Nora? My dear viewers. In the next episode, we will kick off the baby season of 2022 with Nora's baby. Stay tuned. See you all then.